Okay, today I'm here at Summer Racing in McDonough, Georgia. We're gonna walk around here and I'll show you guys the store. Stick around after this. I've got some parts actually coming in from Summit, and when I get home back to Wisconsin, we'll unbox them and I'll show you what they are. Okay, so I got back from Georgia the other day and this stuff arrived in the mail when I got back. Kind of a Christmas present. Okay, what's this? Oh. So these are my intake manifold bolts. Wanted to get these because I want all the fasteners to look nice and neat and match. Also because I wanted this head type, the hex washer head type, because if you've ever worked on a Chevy intake manifold, or any intake manifold for that matter, you've always got one or two bolts where you cannot get a socket in to get them without either using an Allen key style bolt, which I don't want to do. Those collect a bunch of garbage inside them and they always end up rusting, or unless you file down a fastener to this smaller size. So having this small hex washer head on there, these will be nice. And I mean, they're ARP. I got the correct satin paint for our pulleys. All of our different pulleys will get those, and then the brackets. So if you watch that video of me painting that 2-groove pulley, the crank pulley, you would notice that I did not have the correct paint. Oh, I grabbed some Permatex. What is this? Oh, this stuff. So, assembly lube, specifically the Redline synthetic type. This, I can't remember the part number on it. It doesn't have it on here. But if you ever watch any of the Redline rebuild that David and Reckow does, he uses this stuff, and one of the things that they always do is time-lapse stuff, and he points out that like generic assembly lubes you can see them just running off of the parts because they're thinner. They might be real stringy and goopy and it might look thick, but it's just not clinging well enough. Versus this stuff, 3 times greater film strength than conventional black molybdenum disulfide lubricants. So that's your standard assembly lubricants. 3 times greater film strength. I don't know, can we open it up and look at it with one hand? Because this engine might sit for a few weeks before we actually fire it up. Oh, of course we get the money shot. It's definitely not stringy like other assembly lubricants are. Other ones, a lot of times you'll see them string way thick like syrups. And I can almost feel, I don't know, I hate to say a coarseness to it, but a little bit of a coarseness to it. We'll see. I've never used this before. It's odd, kind of that clay red color. But we'll see how it goes. I'm going to clean my finger off, put the lid back on this, and I'll bring you guys back. Okay, so I'm back. Cleaned my fingers off, got the jar all shut up. But one thing I did want to mention is this stuff is quite a bit pricier. Probably 3 times the price of standard assembly lube. I paid, we'll just round it up to 20 bucks. It was 18 and some change for it. Versus you're probably gonna spend probably 6 or 7 bucks for a tube of assembly lube. But the thing is this is a lot more, and I'm gonna be pretty liberal with it. So if I were gonna be as liberal as I was going to be with this, with other assembly lubes, I'd probably end up buying 2 or 3 of them. So the price is, I think, comparable to the volume. But one thing with this is a lot of guys will, they're just spreading it all over their hand, and then they're wiping it onto their cam lobe, they're wiping it onto bearing surfaces. I want to be a little more strategic about the placement of stuff, so I also grab myself some acid brushes. I like to try to be pretty organized, so these acid brushes will help me to make sure that I'm applying it specifically where I need it. And I'm just a picky person as far as organization and trying to do things in a specific way, so I prefer doing it this way as opposed to putting it on with my hands. And what I was really excited about getting, the oil pan. So they packaged this really well. I got all the bubble wrap out. I'm going to take this box out, we'll put it on the table, and then we'll open it up and take a look at it. And then I want to get this thing primed and painted. I did not order a painted one or a chromed one. I ordered the steel one, so it needs to be painted. I'm just kind of curious what the service prep is like just right out of the box. So give me a second, we'll show that to you. Okay, so let's see. Here it is. It looks just like the original pan. As you can tell, they do put something on there for coating, so you're not getting a bunch of surface rust on there. The only little bit of rust that I see is just right here, but obviously you can't prevent it all. If I wanted to absolutely ensure I wouldn't get anything on there, I could have gotten a painted finish, but a lot of times with these imported parts, you never know if underneath whatever coating they put on it, there might have been a fingerprint or something. So to me, it's all the same. So let me go ahead and get this unwrapped, and we'll maybe work on getting this cleaned up and getting some primer on it. I'll show you the inside too. We'll go ahead and start unwrapping this. There it is. You can't argue with this for $42. That's gonna look a whole lot nicer than worrying about having a dent there. People might say, oh, it's under the car, you're not gonna see it. I agree. I agree if this is like my car that I'm just gonna rip around in and have fun in. Not to say this car isn't gonna be ripped around in and had fun in, but I want this car just to be a little bit nicer than that. So if it gets put up on a lift, I don't want a dent here. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Let me grab a tripod and I'm gonna put you on a tripod and I'll start cleaning this up. Okay, and I figure I might as well also bring in the original oil pan and I can show you why we're replacing it, and we can also do a comparison. To match up, right, so that it's the same. That's good. Small difference there. Looks pretty well the same. That bracket is slightly different. I don't mind. Some flanging in it right here, whereas this one is completely flat on the side. And that could just be a cost savings from the company who's stamping it. Same thing over here. A little bit of bead rolling in it. And this one does not have any bead rolling in it. I mean, and some people might prefer that for the cleaner look. Oh, I'm noticing this one does not have the gasket. This is probably a hole for a gasket piece. It's not a huge deal, but just noticing that. This flange almost looks slightly thicker on the new one. These corners all look the same besides, so this one looks the same besides this corner. You see this notch here is slightly larger. It goes all the way around the corner on this one as opposed to this one. But I'm just nitpicking at this point. There are these inserts and then back here that are not present on this one. You know, before I go any further, let's just run this out to the engine. Okay, so got the oil pan out here. Looks good on there. Fits. I've been running some bolts in it, and I am noticing one little fitment issue. It should be easy to solve, but all of these bolts go in really without any issue. And I get one in over here, one in at the end. And then you can see these. That one looks okay. That one looks okay. But then as we get to the closer to the center, they get just a little bit further off. This one especially. Okay, so get all those bolts threading in there by hand now on both sides. So I am confident now that it fits good and that I can start cleaning it up, prime it, and paint it. Just want to make sure I could check that all the holes lined up, make sure that it was level and flat before I put any paint onto it, and then got afraid of scratching it. So we'll go ahead and take it off now, and then I'll start getting it prepped. Before even cleaning this or anything, just so I can make sure that paint sticks to it, and just so I can remove all the surface stress, I am going to go across it with some 120 by hand. Just so the paint has some tooth to bite too. I'm not gonna sand on gasket surface, obviously, but I am going to sand down here in this valley as well as I can, because we all know this is where the paint ends up chipping off. And, you know, at the end of the day, I know all you guys are saying, oh, the paint never stays on anyway, but might as well take an extra few minutes and give it its best chance it can. I'll throw this or on the bolt itself. So here's that. Get it scuffed up. I got those holes all matched up now. Let's grab a little soap and water and let's start scrubbing this thing. I don't want to soak it, but just enough to kind of degrease it a little bit. I know a lot of people say don't put water on bare steel, but when you're degreasing something like this that has all that flash coating on it, you can't expect to get something clean just by using one way. Like, I wouldn't just use acetone, or I wouldn't just use like isopropyl alcohol. I wouldn't just use soap and water. You gotta clean this thing like 3 or 4 different times. That's why I use something for mechanical abrasion like sandpaper to scuff it, and then I use the soap and water, and then I'll come through with acetone, and then after the acetone, then I'll come through wax and grease remover, and every time I'm gonna see that I'm still gonna pull garbage off of it. And if you're really worried about moisture, which what I'll do, and what I recommend doing if you're really concerned about moisture, is come through with a heat gun or a torch and get it hot so you can evaporate some of that moisture. Acetone. Now I'll come through and use some wax and grease remover. Be careful about what wax and grease remover you use, and use one you trust. I use this Excel, but I have to be picky about what products I use it with, or either give it a really long time to dry and flash off, or come back through with something like isopropyl alcohol, because Excel does state that this is not to be used for that's what they say right on their website. So if you do use this, make sure that you come back through with something else and strip this off. It is good for wax and grease, but it is not a pre. Another option is just get a wax and grease remover that you know is good to use as a pre. Prep-All. Prep-All is a good brand to use as a pre. So that's just going over this top. So that's why I say you cannot use just one product to do this with. As you get closer towards the end of this thing being clean, pull in one direction. Okay. Want to get the surface temperature up. I'm going to burn off any moisture that might be in that steel. The primer I'm going to use is this TranStar. Stuff lays on real nice. Is your second coat. But I'm just realizing I don't think I have enough to cover this with my engine enamel. So I may end up having to come back and do this tomorrow or just later, who knows. So I'll probably come back with another coat, but you can get a pretty good idea what it's going to look like. Although it is definitely more fluorescent in person than it is on camera. So this is just a medium coat here. That's why obviously it looks a little textured. We'll come back with a full wet coat to finish it off. Thanks for watching, guys.
Like and subscribe, please. Leave a comment. What car do you like? Vroom, vroom.